Hello there! I don't get many visitors out here. I'm Kanas, but if you found me, then you probably already knew that. You must have questions about elder magic. Well, you came to the right place. There's good old reliable flux. Never leave battle preparations without it. Then there's Nosferatu. Draining the enemy's life force is a little spooky, but you do what you have to survive. Then there's Luna. They say that I used this spell to defeat the fire dragon, and it's true, 30% of the time. Oh, you want to know about that spell? Yeah, I've cast it before. I can teach it to you too. Just remember that everything has a price.
The continents of Elib and Magvel are the only regions where you'll be able to cast the ultimate dark spell. Specifically, you'll need to play either Fire Emblem 7, the Blazing Blade, or Fire Emblem 8, the Sacred Stones. We'll start with Fire Emblem 7 since that's the game that introduced both the spell and myself. In order to cast the spell, you'll need a very special reagent, which can be obtained from this lovely old lady in a village in Chapter 13 of Ellawood's story. It contains some very explosive magic. Does she know? The intended function of the mine is to booby-trap a space, which will deal 10 damage to and end the turn of the next unit to step on the tile. But we dark magic users have always been a crafty bunch. You might even say Minecrafty. Set the mine where you expect an enemy to traverse, and as soon as they spring the trap and the explosion, shut the game off.
And leave it off! Don't do it. It's not an enemy control glitch. It's a player Ready to continue?
Once you resume the game, you'll find that enemies are very cooperative. They'll do anything you command. You can make them discard their weapons, turning them into sitting ducks, lambs to the slaughter. This knight decided he wants to take up archery. Now he's bow-locked. Yikes. Once the spell has been cast, the battle is over. You can disable every enemy on the map and even make them do silly things like give their friends piggyback rides. Tough enemy blocking the objective? Not anymore. He decided he'd rather take a stroll in the nearby forest. Ambushed by a high-movement boss with a killer weapon? After a change of heart, he decided to try his luck in the arena. I'd say better luck next time. But you're dead! You can, of course, force goons to make the ultimate sacrifice and suicide into Marcus, although I think that also happens in normal gameplay. Can you imagine having complete control over the lives of an army? Everyone forced to obey your every command, like marionettes on strings, dancing until they're tossed aside for the next new toy. Really unnatural stuff. I can see why they call this dark magic. But enough doom and gloom. Let's lighten the mood with some shopping. Enemies can enter shops and make purchases for you, although they'll use your wallet and weapons will be stuck in their inventory. Unfortunately, you can't trade directly with enemies, but there are still ways to transfer their items into permanent player possession. The first method is simple. Enemies can access the convoy, so as long as they're near Merlinus, whether he's in tent or wagon form, they can plop their items straight into the stash. The second method is more difficult, but can be used on enemies nowhere near Merlinus. Some enemies are programmed to drop items, shown in blinking green text. However, they don't actually drop that item, they'll drop whatever the last item in their inventory is. Since you can gain control over them and enemies can trade among their own faction, you can exploit this to obtain, I don't know, a special Uber Spear that boosts a bunch of your stats. It's not quite a holy weapon, more an unholy weapon in the context of our tactics. And by now you're probably wondering, how in the world does one buried boy lead to the mental domination of an entire army? It's magic. I don't have to explain it, because this video already did. But I can explain alternate ways to cast the spell if you're explosively challenged. In the land of Magvel, where Minecraft was never released, sounds kinda nice actually, You can still enslave all who oppose you. All you need is an actor tile.
Haha, I'm not an actor. I'm a real dark mage.
An actor tile is any tile where something happens. Usually actor tiles are part of the map itself, like a flame geyser that deals damage at the end of turns, or a snag that can be knocked down to create new paths. Here, a spooky spider attacks me while on the tile where a snag once stood, and if you reset the game right before the enemy sprite would fade to gray. Wow, I guess you could say we're now a part of Team Snag'em. And in true villainous tradition, looks like we get to use absolute garbage. 3 Aria doses. I think I'll nickname them horrible typing, horrible stats, horrible move pool. Just awful. Aria dose. Adios. If the map has Fog of War, you can create your own actor tiles. Just use a torch or a torch staff on a tile you predict will see some traffic. Reset once an enemy steps on the torch tile and let's just say they really saw the light and decided to defect to our side of the war. You've probably noticed that the enemies we've been facing so far are rather monstrous. Most monsters don't wield human weapons, so there's no point in nabbing them, right?
Wrong. Very, very wrong.
Monster claws can't be equipped by humans, but the Manakete Myrrh actually can wield them, although she has no animations for them and also her stats without her Dragonstone bonuses are absolutely pitiful. What's much more exciting is the fact that monster weapons can be used to teach anyone the wonders of Elder Magic. Gorgons are the monstrous mirror of dark mages, and they can use a spell called Stone, which petrifies a unit for several turns, rendering them immobile, unable to dodge, and 30% more vulnerable to crits. Sounds pretty potent, especially considering that it requires 0 dark magic experience to actually cast. So all you have to do is spend a few turns collecting all the not-so-sacred stones, and you're ready to open up your very own academy for the dark arts. Dazla here has a support conversation where he mentions wanting to dabble in the magical arts. Let's give him a chance to flex his thinking muscles for once. A single use of stone will grant E rank in dark magic, but the basic dark spell, Flux, is actually D rank. One side effect is that if you're not a natural magic user, your weapon proficiencies will change to the magical template, but you still keep your physical proficiencies. Once the Tower of Volney is thoroughly stoned, you'll be able to use Flux and gain dark weapon experience normally. Sadly, for units like Dazla that were never meant to sling spells, he's limited to overworld combat animations. Dark Bishop Ellen over here does have spellcasting animations, which means she can use both stone and any more advanced dark magic in combat as if it were part of her natural skill set. Dark spells are even super effective against monsters, since the Slayer bonus is a skill and not actually tied to light magic. Who knew that Ellen was secretly evil this whole time? There's actually one other Muggle unit who has a secret proficiency with magic. Can you guess who? It's Tempest. Equip her with stone, and instead of giving units turns, now she takes their turns away. Talk about a stunning performance. Tethys actually has a crazy speed stat, which usually doesn't matter outside of evasion, but since Flux is an offensive spell that can double, Tethys almost certainly will. Or she would, if doubling with her didn't petrify the entire game.
And that's how you cast Mind Control, the ultimate dark spell. Pretty scary, huh? Oh, leaving so soon? Don't forget to pay the price! Come back if you ever want to learn more about Elder Magic. I'll be waiting.